Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out this evening for a talk to be delivered by Professor Oren Gutfeld on the Dead Sea Caves' new archaeological discoveries. For those of you who are interested and available tomorrow morning, Dr. Gutfeld will also be speaking on excavating and rebuilding ruins in Jerusalem's Jewish quarter. If you haven't registered for tomorrow's lecture, we do have room, but please let us know before you leave this evening. I'm going to introduce our speaker in a minute, but want to just provide you with a few introductory notes on some of our upcoming programs. First of all, some of you might have seen, we're really excited that we're going to have the author David Grossman here in April from Israel. He just won the Man Booker Prize, and we're so happy that we've secured his visit here. So make sure you save the date for that appearance. Oh, it's April 9th. Write it down. And he's going to be speaking at the Maltz Performing Arts Center. We have also coming up our East Side Conversations, which is a monthly lunch program that we have. This month we have, this Friday actually, Rabbi Richard Block speaking on the changing Jewish landscape, reflections on a career in the rabbinate. He'll be speaking on. And I also want to draw your attention with the ever-rising crisis on substance abuse, the opioid epidemic. We have a regular substance abuse program here, and our upcoming one is, where are you, Cheryl? Is Thursday, November 16th, this Thursday. And we're actually going to be having the mayors, Mayor Merle Gordon of Beechwood, and Mayor Kathy, he's still mayor, and and the mayor of Orange Village and the mayor of Lyndhurst, who will be here speaking about the crisis at the local level. That, again, is on Thursday, this Thursday evening. And with that, I just want to let you know that this evening's lecture, we're really grateful to the generous support that we received from the Rena and Samuel M. Frankel Fund of the Lauren Alvin Siegal College of Judaic Studies Educational Fund that's held at the Jewish Community Federation of Cleveland. We're very grateful for the support for this lecture and for all of our generous donors in helping to support our program. With that, I'm going to welcome Oren Gutfeld, who received his MA and his PhD in classical anthropology from classical archaeology from Hebrew University. He serves as the excavation director on behalf of Hebrew University at a number of active archaeological sites, including Beit Lehi, at the Horva Synagogue in Jerusalem's Jewish quarter, at Nachal Schacha in the Judean desert, and at the Dead Sea Scrolls Cave 12 in Qumran, which he's going to be speaking about this evening. Oren has also done other archaeological work at Jericho, Masada, Herodium, and Sipori, and he's held research fellowships at the Ben Tzvi Institute in Jerusalem, at the Frankel Institute for Advanced Judaic Studies at the University of Michigan, and as a Lady Davis Fellow at Hebrew University. He has an extensive list of publications and public appearances, and he's in from Israel. He just arrived last night, actually, and we're so happy that on your tour in the United States this time that you made your way to Cleveland. So thanks very much for coming. Please give a warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Alana, for inviting me and to be here this evening. Tonight I would like to tell you a very nice story, actually, about fun things that I'm doing over there in Israel, and especially around the northern part of the Judean desert. Can you all hear me? Okay. And the northern part of the Judean desert, and specifically tonight about a new cave that I recently discovered not far away from Qumran, on the shore of the Dead Sea, as you can see on the first slides. But before I'm starting, a few words regarding the Dead Sea Scrolls. Well, the Dead Sea Scroll, the first Dead Sea Scroll were found, we're not sure, either in 1946 or 1947. It's very hard with the Bedouin, and I'm going to return to this later, because they are telling many, many stories. And, you know, the official story about Muhammad the wolf, a Dib, who was chasing a goat that was lost in the caves of Qumran, and he entered, he thought she's in one of the caves, and he saw a stone inside, and he heard something strange broken, so he ran away to the tent and brought his family, and they all went down to cave, later released as cave number 1, and they entered the cave. They were climbing, and there were some entrances and many, many stories, and they found more than 24 complete storage jars. Some of them are complete with the lead on top, and they opened them and found, of course they didn't know what it is, but they found a lot of leather over there, and they took it to the tent and they left it in the tent. Some says for a few months, some says for a year, some says for 2 years. They didn't know what to do with that. Then they said, well, there's a shoe dealer, a shoemaker in Bethlehem under the name of Iskandar Kandu. So maybe we'll go to Bethlehem, we'll give him those piece of leather, and maybe he will give us something. And they did, and they went to Bethlehem and gave the leather to this Iskandar. He didn't know what it is as well. And he started to prepare shoes from the scrolls. Oh, yes. And then he saw that there's some strange writing on one side of the leather, and said, well, maybe I should write a marriage contract on the reverse, on the other side. And he did. Okay, so some Muslims were married with ancient Dead Sea Scroll marriage contract. Until one day, someone came to his, this is, by the way, Khalil Iskandar Kandu, who became very, very rich person. And now he owns an antique shop in Bethlehem, not him, but his son and grandchild in Bethlehem, in London, and in Zurich. And one day, an Orthodox Mar Abrahamus came to visit him, and he saw these scrolls. And he knew, he was the first one to understand what are these pieces of leather that this Kandu hold, and urged him, asked him to bring more. So this is how the Dead Sea Scrolls has found, or the story of the Dead Sea Scroll started. Then, of course, the minute Kandu, who was a very, very clever guy, understood what he had, well, he sent the Bedouin and asked the Bedouin to return to the caves and bring him more. And they did. And then he started to pay them according to the pieces that they are bringing. So the Bedouin, they're wise as well. They brought first the scroll to the tent. The next thing they did is they cut them into small pieces and they sold it to this Kandu by pieces. So this is how the Dead Sea Scroll, yes, it's lunatic, I know. Because it started in 1946, 1949. It suddenly, by early 50s, the market in Jerusalem, Bethlehem, in Hebron, also in New York, was full of pieces of fragments, parchments of Dead Sea Scrolls. And then is when Elazar Lifa Sukenik, one of the first Jewish archaeologists, or that was even before the state of Israel was established, and the father of Yigael Yadin, Professor Yigael Yadin, the chief of staff of the Israel Defense Forces, when he bought the first 7 scrolls in 1948, 1949. It was already in 1947, but it was delayed because of the declaration of the State of Israel. But in 1949, Israel had already the first 7 Dead Sea Scrolls. And it's interesting because only in 1951, when more and more scrolls arrived to the markets, then the Jordanians who were occupied this area, the northern part of the Dead Sea and the Judean desert, they asked Father Roland Devaux from the École Biblique of Archaeology, from the French School of Archaeology in Jerusalem, to start an excavation in the area and to find it more scientifically. And he did. But unfortunately, he started his excavations in Qumran, while all the Dead Sea Scrolls were found on the cliffs, on caves. And we have a documentary that, for example, he was working in Qumran. Have you been in Qumran, some of you? I'm sure, at least some of you were in Qumran. Boring sight, really boring sight. Without the scrolls, not even one bus would have stopped over there. Okay? We have much better sites in Israel. But because of the story of the scrolls, and we know that Professor Devaux, Father Devaux, he started the excavation at the site, at the settlement of Qumran. And on the same days that he was working at the site, the Bedouin were looting the caves in front of his eyes. Especially in Cave 4, which is really a few meters away from the settlement, where they found the Geniza, the archive of the scrolls. Do you know how many fragments of scrolls were found in Cave 4? Say a number. Thousands. How many thousands? 15,000 were found in this Geniza, in the archive. And Father Devaux describes the Bedouin walking like this, because all their clothes are full of parchments, of small pieces of Dead Sea Scrolls, but they were still digging in Qumran, unfortunately. And we'll return to that. Who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls? There are 2 main theories. One is the traditional theory that the Essenes, the Dead Sea cult, sat over there in Qumran for more than 200 years and wrote copies of the Bible, of the books of the Maccabees, Jewish literaries, different Jewish literary books, commentaries to the Bible, everything that you can think of, but there's more. There are some scrolls that doesn't go with the Essenes way of thinking, like the temple scroll. The Essenes were against the temple, against the Sadducites, the priest and the high priest in Jerusalem. So for sure they didn't write the temple scroll. So how come that this temple, the complete scroll of the temple that describes the temple, the measurements of the temple, the way of the sacrifice, how you should sacrifice, everything that connects to the temple is over there. So for sure not the Essenes who wrote it. Another theory is that the Dead Sea Scrolls is actually the library that was in the temple in Jerusalem, that were hidden on the cliffs of Qumran before the Roman invasion to Jerusalem in the time of the Great Revolt, 66-67 CE. That goes also with the story of the copper scroll, which was found in Cave 3, which was not written on parchment, on a leather, and it's inscribed on 99% pure copper, that tells us about 64 stations where a huge amount of treasures were hidden in the Judean desert. There's only one, how do you say? What? No, there's only one institute who can hold so much amount of treasures, and this is the temple in Jerusalem. So if you think about both of them, it makes a little bit more sense, but let's go back to the excavation in Qumran. So in 1951, Roland Devaux, Father Roland Devaux, an American archaeologist, Lancaster Harding, from the American School of Archaeology in Jerusalem, studied the excavation in Qumran Plateau. This is the area that they discovered, the settlement, the community. We still believe that this is the place of the community, the Dead Sea community, or the Essene, as we know from Josephus Flavius, Yosef ben Matityahu, the Jewish Roman historian, who describes the Essenes as a small cult that lived on the Dead Sea and had their own traditions. And this is already my excavations, a photograph that an aerial photo that I took in 2006. So you see this blank area over here. This is the area where I conducted an excavation between 2002 and 2012. I'll tell you a secret. The reason I got the permit to dig over there is because the government thought that there's nothing over there. The director of the Israel Antiquities Authority looked at it in my eyes and said, "Why do you want to dig there? It's outside of the settlement. Look at the plateau. It's empty. There's nothing." So I told him, "So why do you care? Give me the permit and then dig for nothing." He gave me, and of course I didn't dig for nothing. Very little architecture, that's true. But a lot of pottery, including this complete, you see over there. Oh my God, believe me. That was really exciting to find a lead, okay, from above. Of course, I didn't pull it up, although I wanted very much. I said, no, you have to make it wider. And then I saw that it covers a storage jar, a complete storage jar. In Qumran, you know what's the meaning of that? That it's empty. This is the meaning of that. This is the first time I bought from Hebrew University the scroll kit, okay? And we didn't use it. And everything was ready. We took off the lead, and it was empty. We took a residue, analysis for the residue, white wine. Very interesting. But together with that, this is what was found over there. But the story over there goes with 56 bone deposits. What's bone deposits? It's bones, animal kosher bones, of course. And by the way, not all the parts of the animal. For example, heads, we didn't find any heads over there. Of 3 cows, and many, most of it are sheep and goat, and 3 doves. Okay, very interesting. That were buried for some reason that is not clear until today in storage jars or cooking pots about half a meter below surface. Sometimes we found the bones inside the pottery. Sometimes we found only the pottery, sometimes only the bones, but mainly all together. And it's very, very interesting. And when I started to analyze the bones over there, I had 2 theses. One that I believe in, and one that I don't believe it at all. But I need to check it. The first one is that the bones were deposited over there because of the communal meal of the Essenes, which means that the bones maybe were sacrificed, the animal were sacrificed in the temple in Jerusalem, and were brought to the community to eat in communal meal, in purity, of course, and then they didn't think that they should throw the bones to divide it to the hyenas, and they should bury them, because we know from Father Devaux excavations that he found more than 150 more, but they were lost. In the 50s, in the early 50s, they didn't know what to do with them. So it just vanished, just disappeared. So now it was the first time that we were able, and this is the only site in Israel where bone deposits like that were found. So it's really, really significant. The second thesis, which I don't believe in, is that was also before we knew about the percentage of the cows and the sheep and the goats, but about 15 years ago, Hebrew University conducted the DNA test or analysis to the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I thought to myself, well, we should try to produce kelogen and to check the DNA of the animals in order to find a match between, if there is any, between the Dead Sea Scrolls and the animals. And if we'll find a matching between the two, even 1%, that will be enough, and that will solve the question where either the Dead Sea Scrolls were written in Qumran or in Jerusalem. So far, without a success, but I told you from the beginning that I didn't believe in it. So that was between 2002 and 2012. In 2010, while we were still working in the plateau, we started to conduct a survey on the cliff. First, it was a very nice trip and to look for the caves where the Dead Sea were found. And I've noticed on this special cave that was named Cave 53, according to a survey that the Antiquities Authority conducted on the cliffs in 1992, around the Oslo Agreement. We wasn't sure what the future of this area will be. So we conducted a survey, emergency survey on the cliffs. That was a very, very fast survey. And I remember that they found the cave. They named it 53, but they continued. And I entered inside and I saw some pottery from Second Temple period and a piece of an ancient mattress made of palm leaf. Said, well, maybe there's something over here. Maybe the Bedouin missed something over here. For sure, the archaeologist missed it. And this is not very far away from Qumran. It's actually the first cave that we're digging south of the Qumran River with remains that goes with the settlement, with the community. Over here, we uncovered a small cemetery from Second Temple period, and the cave itself is a little bit higher on the cliff. So in January, actually December 31st and last January, we started the excavation. We came for 2 weeks and we stayed 5 weeks in the cave. Every day we had to climb all the way up to the cave. We couldn't leave anything over there because of the Bedouins. They were watching all the time. And when it got more interesting, we stayed there. We couldn't leave it. So this is Qumran, and this is the view of the cave from Qumran. Now it's easy. There are drones that were flying in the air and taking wonderful photos. The cave was not really hidden, so I guess this is the reason that everybody thought, it's so clear. There's nothing what to look over there because everybody were there. But it wasn't true. And December 31st, then January 2017, we started the excavation. And the best thing that I did over there is that I gave, I don't want to say an order, but I asked that every bucket with earth fill will be sifted. And it worked. It worked. So this is how we started the excavation. This is the excavation from the inside. Not so big, about 3 by 5 meters, with another tunnel that goes on the back of the tunnel, but it was too small for me. What can I do? And of about 2 or 3 meters. That's it. At the end of the excavation, it appears that the tunnel goes to 15 meters. That's about 45, 50 feet long. So we started to clean, and this is a map, a plan of the cave. So this is the back tunnel with the niche over here, and this is the main room. We couldn't see this tunnel over here. We found it after we started the excavation, and thanks God we did, and another niche over here. So this is the entrance to the tunnel before the excavation. Lot of chunks, pieces from the ceiling that fell from the ceiling to the tunnel and prevent entrance. This is from the inside. Outside. Well, Christy, she's a little bit thinner than me, so she started the excavation over there and opened the tunnel for us. And this is me with my assistant, Achiad Ovadia, who just finished his MA at the Hebrew University on prehistory, on period that's called Neolithic period. And I'm glad that he came to work with me because I don't understand anything in prehistoric archaeology. And beneath the second temple period layer, we found Chalcolithic and Neolithic layers, 2 layers with beautiful finds that we're going to see in a second. So this is, now you can imagine how life was to the ancient people and for us digging inside. Very hot, although it's January. It's still warm in the area of the Dead Sea. Very dry, lots of dust. Every time that you started to dig, everything blows with dust. It's not easy. It's not easy. So sometimes it was too narrow, so narrow that you have to crawl and to lay and to dig the opposite like that. Very, very strange positions, but it was worth. Almost in the back of the tunnel, we started to uncover big pieces of storage jars. And over here you see at least 3 storage jars that are broken. But all the pieces are there, which means that now we can make a restoration and it will be complete again. And then, while we were cleaning and pushing our hands between rocks, etc., like you see over here, 2 pickaxes, ancient pickaxes were found. And I thought to myself, oh my God, these pickaxes belongs to the Bedouin. So they were the one who broke the storage jars in order to take something. What it can be, I don't know. So those are the 2 pickaxes. But when we took it to the laboratory, first of all, to the Shrine of the Book, we saw at the entrance to the Shrine of the Book in the Israel Museum that 2 pickaxes, similar pickaxes, are in the exhibit from Father Devo excavations, and the label is Second Temple Period pickaxes found in Devo excavations. So today we can do some metal analysis, and we'll know for sure either those belongs to the Bedouins. In that case, the Shrine of the Book is mistake, and we'll have to change the label after 50, 60 years, yes. Or either we're wrong, and those are from Second Temple Period. Anyways, it's interesting and important. Before I continue with what we found more over there, again, a plan of the site. with an X of the areas where we found more storage jars and pottery. And now to the cave itself. After we cleaned the dust, we uncovered that in the entire area of the cave, this mattress, this bedding made of palm leaves, in the entire area of the cave, which means that it was used in the Second Temple period for at least sleeping, if not for living. Usually they didn't live in the caves, but perhaps they used them for one night or for a few nights when they came to the cave for some reason. But we didn't find any cooking wares, which meant that they didn't cook over there, or any other installations of what they were doing over there. So my theory is that they came from Qumran or from other place, came to the cave, stored the storage jars that some of them you saw already, and from time to time they came to the cave and left and said, oh, we didn't find any coins over there, and not cooking wares, not kitchen wares. Okay? So we started the excavation with the help of my good friend Yusuf Abu Amariya. He's from the Ta'amurai. The Ta'amurai is the tribe who was the first to find the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1946, 1947. So it was great that he worked with us because they have sense. And he told me that, look, on the corner, on the niche, there's a niche over there. There's a big rock. And I told him, yes, it fell from the ceiling. He told me, no, we have to break it and take it out. I told him, Yusuf, we're here for 2 weeks. Leave it. Let's clean, let's go home. Enough. No, and he was insist. And he started to break it slowly. And after 2 days, he showed me, look, the stone was not just there. It didn't fall by an accident. It was put in purpose on a wall. And then I looked, and there was a wall beneath this rock, which means that someone put this huge rock over there in order to hide things behind it. So we started the excavation over there. Another tunnel. I love tunnels. And we're starting to dig. Suddenly, a lid, a cover made of pottery, complete, almost complete. Complete from archaeological point of view, which means that we can glue it and it will be complete again. Continuing the excavation, suddenly pieces of storage jar, and not a regular storage jar. This special Qumran storage jar, scroll jar that we call. And more. And in total, 8 storage jars. The 3 of them are Qumran scroll jars. And more. And suddenly, I'm looking and I couldn't believe. You see? A old parchment. For more than 60 years, no one found a old parchment. So I'm calling Achiad, very, very exciting. Bring the Dead Sea Scroll kit. This time we are going to use it. You know, that was one of my best sentences that I ever said. Here it is from close. Of course, you're not allowed to touch it on bare hands. You're not allowed to breathe on it. Yeah. Everything is ready, open, and it's ready in the order that you should take it from the ground and put it in the box, and how to treat it. And over here you can see how how happy I am. I was then. And we took the kit and we folded it and we ran away to the cars and straight to the Skull laboratory of the Israel Antiquities Authority in the Israel Museum. And we'll return to the skull in few minutes. And few more jar fragments that were collected over there. Remember that I told you that I asked to sift everything? Because we sifted everything, we found more than 450 bags of organic material that we're going to see in a second. But on the right, you can see another piece that was found while we were sifting. And I have to tell you, the skull or the parchment is clear, it's a leather. But over here, some very strange material that I was not aware of. Papyrus. Papyrus. So we have one parchment and one papyrus. Again, more than 60 years that no one found things like that. And this is already on the left, a photograph, a scanning after the Skull Laboratory opened it in Jerusalem. And immediately you can see that it's blank. So now, in my milieu, I know for two things. The first archaeologist after 60 years that found a parchment, and the first archaeologist who found a blank parchment. And believe me, this evening is easy. On Thursday, I'm going to present it in one of the important archaeological conferences in Boston. Yes, it will be harder. Yes, that's the reason that at the beginning I was happy, and no, I'm still happy. But yes, we don't know. It's blank. But together with other stuff that we found together with this parchment, we believe that the cave was a skull cave. And at least, 7 or 8 storage jars were found over there, which means that there were skulls over there that were looted. The question, by whom? Either the Bedouins, or maybe even earlier, maybe in the early Islamic period, when early monks came from Jericho and were walking on the cliffs, and we have a letter, at least one letter, that a monk under the name of Timothy, writing to his archbishop in Jerusalem, that he found in the area of the Dead Sea ancient Bible books or scrolls. So either it goes all the way to the early Islamic period, or it's either the Bedouins. Can be the Bedouins as well. This is my office in the field. A folded table, and where we register all the finds. And this is the area while we are sifting dust in the air. But very, very nice and very important. So we take every bucket, we pull it into the sifter, and we're making lots of dust. And at the end, this is what we find. Small pieces of leather or textiles. Over there, you see? It's a piece of textile. And why textile is important? Because we know already from Kandu and from the Bedouins that they used in the Second Temple period to wrap the skulls with textiles in order to keep them, to preserve them, and even to tie them with the leather stripes. we have found more than 15 fragments or pieces of textiles in the cave, and at least 2 stripes of leather. And a lot of organic material, like hundreds of olive pits, dozens of date pits, different kind of seeds. And this is the textile, linen wrappings. And that's before cleaning. A few more examples. Ropes, baskets, textiles, fabrics. Very, very rich cave. Very rich cave. But the most important thing, that all these finds goes together with the scrolls. Those are all the accessories of the scrolls. And this is the reason in an article that I wrote and published, I suggested that Cave 53 should be called Cave 12. And why Q12? Because according to the Bedouins, all the scrolls came from 11 caves, 1 to 11. And for some reason, all scholars accepted it as, as Torah Sinai, which is nonsense. Like I found the caves, perhaps there's more caves over there. And that's the reason we are still surveying and walking on the cliffs and looking for more caves. Look, you see, this is all came from the inside. Over here, there's no better sample in the world for a Second Temple period mattress made of palm leaves. You know what it is? Me neither. I thought maybe you know and you will tell me. And over here, we are Cave 12. But I promised you also the layers beneath the Second Temple period. So, Chalcolithic from the Chalcolithic period, from the end of the 6th and the 5th millennium BCE, a stone seal made of corallian. This is a very good red stone, complete seal, and flint arrowheads under the name biblos. Arrowheads. Yes, I'm saying that like no, it's all from Achiad. He told me everything that I'm saying. And Canaanite early bronze sickle and blades. Really, really important and nice finds that tells us about, earlier stages of the cave in the late prehistoric period. And over here, pottery from the Neolithic period. This is actually the first assemblages of pottery. Pottery was invented on the Neolithic period. So what we see over here actually is the first pieces of Neolithic pottery that exist, and some inscribed shaped stone, maybe ritual thing, bone tools, shell bead, and a statement of the Director General of the Israel Antiquities regarding the important discovery of another scroll cave. It is important. It is important because, and one of the reasons that I didn't tell you that we are there is not because in 2010 I started to walk again and survey the cliffs and I found the cave, but also because in the last 5 to 7 years, more and more fragments, parchments, pieces of papyrus arrived to the black market in Jerusalem and Bethlehem. And this is after many years that our teachers, professor at the university said, don't waste your time on the cliffs. The Bedouin looted everything, and if not the Bedouin, then Devo and if not the vote, the survey in 1992, you have nothing what to look over there. And suddenly, those pieces arrived, and 2 years ago, perhaps you read about the Jerusalem papyrus that was found on a search on antique looters that were digging in one of the caves. And then I said, that's it. We have to go and search and start something big over there. And now we convinced the government to sponsor a 3 years survey for 300 caves from Masada to Qumran, with excavation of at least 10% of them. And that was the first one, so I hope that will be only the first one to come. One more thing, I came yesterday in 85 degrees from Modi'in, but we're still waiting for the rains. But when it comes to the desert, when it comes to Qumran, this is a photograph that they took in 2005 or 2006 when a huge flash floods came and washed on the left the cliffs of Qumran, and on the right the ancient aqueduct from the second temple period that started to work again according to the water. So thank you very much for listening. And if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you very much.
I'll pass the mic around for questions.
I have read that there is Christian interest in the caves and pieces that they are keeping secret. I'm not any more erudite than that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. I know very well. So first of all, don't be afraid. Okay?
Not afraid.
Yes. So you see those and those? Those are Christian evangelists who are sponsoring the excavations. Okay? Someone need to sponsor that, and unfortunately, not the government, or now I hope with this emergency survey that they will, but on a research excavation, mainly Christians, for their purposes and for their reasons, they are sponsoring the excavations. So, yes, they are sponsoring. They have their own reasons for that, but they don't keep anything. Not even one single pottery shard is going out of the country. Okay? So everything is under control, and...
That's not what I'm referring to.
Okay.
I'm referring to other Christian groups that had pieces,
Mm-hmm.
documents, whatever,
Uh-huh.
and they were not letting anyone see them.
Well, since the looters bought the Dead Sea Scrolls to Kandu, and he sold it to private collectors or to private people, also to the church, different kind of church, then yes, that's true. We didn't see all the fragments. We didn't see all the Dead Sea Scrolls yet. For example, we spoke about it over dinner tonight. In a few months, the Green Foundation is going to open the Bible Museum in Washington, D.C. They have their own scrolls. They bought scrolls. From whom? We don't know. Either those are scrolls that we know, probably not.
You spoke of the fact that there were going to be additional surveys. Are you going to be able to use any of the fancy high-tech equipment to be able to see more
Yes.
than you can with the eye?
Yes. Thank you very much for your question. Yes, one of the problems with the traditional survey that we conducted in the past and now is that there are many caves that were collapsed, okay, during the years. Remember, this is the Dead Sea Rift, okay, and there are many, many earthquakes in this area. And some of the caves, we know for sure that they're collapsed, and we had no way to find them because we were walking on top of them. So now, first of all, I mentioned the drones that we're using that can go, instead trying to climb to the cliff to some very dangerous cave, just sending a drone and we have a full visual, and we see it at the computer later. And second, we are using GPR, ground penetration radar, and some other seismic things. Unfortunately, Israel became very, very professional with all this GPR and seismic because of the Hamas tunnels that goes into Israel. So we're using it for civil purposes as well. Yes. Okay, so if there's no more questions? No?
I'm not letting you off.
Okay. Sorry.
Questions always pop up, so I'll ask a question while the crowd gets to think of it.
Okay.
So your professors who discouraged you from continuing the search, was it sort of fatigue around the Dead Sea Scroll stuff, or was it that they wanted you to get to other important things that were out there, or what was the kind of atmosphere when you were a graduate student?
The atmosphere was that, first of all, that really everything was done already. And second, if you remember, for many years, we didn't know much about the Dead Sea Scrolls because there was like a group of scholars that were set for almost 30 years in closed room. They didn't let anyone to see even what is written there. And that's why many conspiracies has started regarding early Christianity and the church and things like that. And at some point, we said, okay, let's do other things, and there's enough without that. But when we started, we saw that it's only the beginning. There's more questions.
I knew there would be.
You mentioned about the bones,
Yes.
and I was wondering if they sense, why would they bring the bones or the animals from Jerusalem? To me, it makes more sense that they did their own sacrifice and it was locally done.
Yes. Well, we have to remember.
Do you want to just repeat the question?
Yes.
The question was about the bones and the question of whether the sacrifices would be done in Jerusalem and then the bones brought there, or sacrifices done there.
Yes. Well, we need to remember that during the Second Temple period, sacrifices were only in one place, and this is in the temple. It's not like in the First Temple period where you read about the Bamot in Arad, in Tel Dan, in Bet El, in other places. No. Second Temple period is different. There's only one place where you can sacrifice sacrifices. Yes, sir.
What was it that made you suspicious back in 1992 to look at that area that, at least on the slide that you showed, was flat? What piqued your interest?
Yes. Well, the reason was a GPR and seismic analysis that we conducted over there to look for more caves. And we found at least few anomalies for caves which become natural caves. Very, very deep below surface, but that was the main purpose. But on the way, we started to find this archaeological find, which was quite a surprise for us. So we continue with that.
So you had GPR that far back?
Yes, in 1992, yes. But it wasn't so successful. That's why I'm mentioning that it was geological layers.
Was there any mining for minerals?
Not in this area. Not in this area at all.
So your relationship with the Bedouin community, is it good, friendly, standoffish?
Oh yes, it's a very good relationship. I brought one example of this Yusuf Abu Amaria, who's working with me 20 years now in Herodium, in Jericho. We used to work together in the site of Bet Lehi that I'm excavating. We do have a good relationship, but this is during the day when we are digging. Yeah. You can never know what they're up to after you are leaving the cave. They might return, not specifically him, but others that are watching or others that are not working with us. For sure, they're trying to come and dig in the area when we are not there.
Can I ask you about the find? It's the things that you found themselves. You really expressed nicely the kind of mixed emotion of sadness at not finding, disappointment at not finding parchments with writing on it, but then the excitement about what you did find there. Is the importance, in your opinion, is the importance of the finds that now you have more information about the people and the history? Or is it that now you have a sense that there's more out there?
Both. Both. First of all, it's very, very exciting to find. Someone really said that this is the most important find after 60 years in Qumran. And first of all, it's the first time after 60 years that scrolls and papyrus were found over there. That gave us hope that it's not the end, and we should search more and perhaps even find. Well, this time it was a blank one. Next time we hope we'll find something, and it's not, something in the sky. And every research and every excavation open a new window for further thesis and research and writing. And this is the importance of that, not to fall asleep like our professor wanted us, and to wake up with something new.
So it's the youth revolting against the elders.
Always.
Okay, we'll take one or two more.
Could you tell us something more about pottery? Do you know whether what they used to make this particular pottery came from that same area, or whether it came from, somewhere else and they brought it there? Also, it looked like pretty fine. It didn't look like it had some of the temp that we find, in the United States and the Indian pottery and so forth, mixed in with it. It looks smoother.
Well, I don't know. I'll start with the end. I don't know what a Native American pottery you refer to, but from which period? Prehistoric. Okay. So the pottery, now it's quite easy. We're doing what we call the petrography. Is we're testing the clay under microscope, and we have a bank of clay, and that tells us from where the pottery is. Well, some of the pottery was done in Qumran itself. They had probably their own kilns. Okay? Yes. First of all, they collected the clay on the river bed, and then they made the pottery vessels on a wheel. Okay, always on a wheel from this period of time. Okay, and it's local. Some of the pottery is what we called Moza Marl, which is a valley west to Jerusalem. So some of the pottery was brought from the area of Jerusalem as well. What we see over here is a storage jar. This is a big storage jar, usually mainly for grains or wine. This is not completely, but this is the type of the scroll jar. This is a cooking pot. This is a lead, a bowl, very special oil lamp, cups, and ritual dish. This is what we call the ritual dish. So this is the kind of pottery that we find over there. Ah, you knew what you're talking about, Alana.
I know my crowd.
I was ready for the coffee, but okay. I'm not in a hurry.
I am so surprised with all the advanced technology that you don't have better security on these sites. Carnarvon and Carter had security in the 20s. Why are you not able to have security?
Well, first of all, they didn't have any security, and, well, they were excavating the settlement, and next to them they were looting cave number 4 with 15,000 pieces of fragments. While we were excavating, we had some security, technology security, like hidden cameras with infrared, that if someone is cutting it, it's called your cell phone. But I don't know if you know the area. It's about 45 kilometers, like 30 miles from Masada to Qumran. of a very high cliff with hundreds of caves, okay, that we cannot control. For the Bedouins, it's very easy. You're riding on a donkey. You're coming from above. You don't need rappelling. You don't need ropes. You don't need anything. You take some dates in your pocket, and you're going for a day of excavation, or night, mainly. For us, it's a little bit different. But we're trying. We're trying. We're trying. Today there's a small aircraft that does photos and looking. We're using drones to some far caves. This is how these looters were caught. Maybe I shouldn't tell that. But yeah, we're trying. But it's a race, and always the Bedouin won the race. Always.
Oren, I think it's time for your coffee. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.